Welcome to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast. Use the power of discovering new habits to create success in all areas of life. Body, fitness and nutrition, being, spirituality, passion and purpose, balance, marriage, kids and relationships, business, marketing, sales, leadership and systems. Transform your life by learning how habits work. And now your host, a husband, father, entrepreneur, trainer, coach, and warrior, Jesse Ewell.
Welcome back to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast. I am your host, Jesse Ewell, and today we're going to be going into a special episode of Power Couples with my beautiful wife, Katie Ewell. I want to welcome you.
Thank you.
So this episode is going to be committed to couples wanting to level up their marriage and life. And specifically today, we're going to be talking about date night ideas, from being on a budget to having, no budget at all. And this comes because one of the guys in one of my groups, Habit-Based Lifestyle Secrets, I kind of put it out there and said, hey, what are some things that you guys want to hear about? Or maybe have an interview about. And one of them that he said is like, hey, what are some specific types of date nights that you guys go on, from being on a budget to not being on one at all? And I thought about the last time we did an episode, how, we talked about date night, but we really didn't get into specifics of giving some examples of what those would look like. So, as we get going on through this episode, we're going to give you some, just different ideas that you can go on a date night and really eliminate any excuse to not do this at least once a week. So, as we start in on this, what are your ideas when you hear that at first? Let's just start with not being on a budget.
What are some
date?
Oh, you want ideas already?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, obviously not being on a budget, I think like minimal amount of money being spent. So, it could be, there's a lot. Let's just talk about costs that can go into a date. Like, you have to hire a sitter if you have kids, you may have to drive somewhere. If it's a restaurant, depending on the price of the restaurant, it's that. If it's a movie after, dates can get really expensive. So when I think about not being on a budget, is that what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, but let's maybe stop for a second and back up, because I think I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. What would you consider if, for me to take you on a date night now, what's considered a date night for you?
Okay, well, number one is alone. You and I together alone. It's connection, which means to me, it's not necessarily talking about work, the kids. It's really about us. I can still remember, when we first, oh my gosh, I'm very visual. So I'm going back to a first date, and I remember you just asking me questions about me. You kind of turned the focus on me, and I felt like that was so amazing, because going back to being a mom, being a wife, being an entrepreneur, and what we do, I typically put the focus on everyone else.
Right.
And so for you and I to go on a date and us to sit down at the table or whatnot, and you to just be like, how's everything pretty much, how are you? And not just like, I'm good, but like, like digging deeper. And then maybe we talk about like our marriage, something that would be fun for us. It's really that connection with communication, without the everyday grind or thinking of that everyday grind. It's just you and I, together in a conversation, or just being together, invested really in seeing, hearing, and I guess I just want to keep saying just being together, because it's hard to just be together when there's so many other things going on.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is like, when you go on a date, you don't want to talk about work, really.
No.
You don't really want to talk about kids, although we might have a conversation for like 5 minutes. Hey, here's some things that are coming up.
Yes.
And but for the most part, it's just me asking you questions. And
Well, and it doesn't even have to be questions. It's just kind of like either I'm focused on you or you're focused on me, really, and not just focused at a surface level, because we always talk about the surface level, but at a deeper level.
right. So maybe eliminating phones.
Yes, 100%.
Okay. And one of the big things I see is, when we go to dinner, oftentimes is one of the things that you see is a lot of couples on their phones, kind of like disengaged with each other. And it's like they got their head into their phone. Meanwhile, this date's going on, and it just doesn't look like they're very connected. The couple is.
Right. And, I can say we've been there. I'm not really sure about like in our phones all date. I could say, but disconnected. And I think you get to a place in your marriage where that kind of becomes a norm and you don't really know or see until it's pointed out to you. And then I think it takes a little bit of time to I want to say rewire, but like shift that because you are so kind of disconnected and doing different things. That you need ideas, to strike up a conversation, because really it is about the kids and it is about work. So, couples just need to become more connected.
Yeah, you have to learn to ask questions and to talk about different things other than, your business and your kids. You have to learn to talk about each other and ask each other questions like, hey, how are you and how are things going for you? And just learning how to open up. And I remember even going on a date, when we really started dating every single week. And I'm like, okay, what are some questions that I can ask to kind of get this going? And I remember it was kind of weird at first, but then it was like it really opened up more conversations into other things. And then it got into, well, what do you want? And what do you want? And then we got really clear on, what each other wanted for a date and what it really meant to be together alone. And then it was like, man, why did we make this so difficult for so long when, it's really not that hard?
Right. But I also think, when you don't know, you don't know. And when you first start dating, it's different, and you throw all these things into the mix and you throw, 14 years of marriage. And it's kind of like, you get out on a date and you're just kind of like, okay, here we are. Like, let's just be here. You know what I mean? So, and the questions 100% help. All of those things, but I also know that we started really challenging ourselves to take these dates to the next level and what could we do? And we were open to doing that.
Okay, so some of the excuses that I hear from guys a lot are, it costs too much money.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a babysitter, and kids. Well, this would be more for probably moms. My wife doesn't like to leave the kids or doesn't trust anybody.
Right.
And then they just don't have time. So those are some of the excuses that I hear from guys. Obviously, when I hear them, I kind of laugh because we've all been there.
Yeah.
But let's start first with the excuse, my kids I don't trust anybody to watch my kids, because that's a big excuse for moms, and that could block the husband from just going out and getting any babysitter.
Right. And that's very common. It is. This day and age with everything that can go on. And I think back to when our kids were little and you can't ask them how it was, it is a fear. It's a big fear for a mother and protecting the child. But I know for us and for me, it was really committing to finding that sitter that I trusted. And it's not just hiring, anyone. It was interviewing and finding. You really have to commit as a mom. If you're worried about your child, then you commit to someone that's going to take the best care of your child, and you interview. Just like you would a doctor or, someone that you're trusting yourself with. And I know that I found, really through, and also word of mouth, asking girlfriends, I found girls that loved my kids like I loved them, and I trusted them. And it did take a little bit of time, and some worked, some didn't. But I think the fear is the unknown and not having someone. But as you start to dive deeper and start interviewing and finding, you're like, oh my gosh, there are amazing sitters out there that will take care of my child. And then, I mean, that all starts to kind of like take a deep breath, and you're like, okay, like this could work. And then, two, I know a lot of times it's, maybe it's they're not available, or, just having one can be hard. But I know when we started, really committing to either it being, we did once a week regardless, but say it could be every other week for some reason, you pick a day and a time, and you guarantee this sitter these hours, this money, and it really falls into place. Another thing I can think back to, oh my gosh, and I still have some of them. Like, I had sheets of paper of like kind of how to take care of our kids. I remember with little Jessie.
Kind of a playbook.
Yes. And it was as in depth as don't put him in the bath until the water is in and you feel it, and make sure it's not too hot. And he likes his blanket this way when you're giving him his bottle. I mean, that made me feel comfortable. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If it comforted me. And I remember my sitters saying, I love this. When I show up at a house and it's like, okay, we're going to be back at 9, like feed them dinner and give them a bath and whatever. They're kind of like, so that was really nice too, because I knew, I wrote down. And so I was comforted in knowing they were doing, kind of what I had asked.
Sure.
So I really think, yeah, I get that. I mean, in that, it is hard. But there's a lot of different resources to find sitters. It does take time and it does take work, but I can tell you that it's so worth it. Once you find that person, and then once you're out on the date as moms, I think, or on that first vacation or whatever, I can remember literally feeling like, okay, this wasn't so bad. But it's that story we run in our head of, oh my gosh, we're leaving our child. And it's really like, amazing for the child. Is it as amazing for the child as it is for the parents to get out, because they get a different person in their space,
Right. So, some of the things that some of the resources are, you can obviously go to parents first. If, we live in a new area, so we don't really have that. You could go to friends second.
Another, as you say, parents, I mean, you could swap. You could swap date nights, and you could have friends watch,
Yeah. So we're going to kind of go through like the mix. So like parents, and in the big excuses is, well, I don't know anybody. Well, we're new to an area, or we have been new. We figured it out, but you have friends, like you said, where we could swap, one night, your friends watch your kids, another night you watch their kids, and they're able to go out to dinner. And so those are kind of your first 3 resources. And then you have, where you'd hire babysitters. Some of the things that we've done is, we've put posts on Facebook.
Or there's, a lot of sitters and nanny sites too, as well.
Yeah. So posts on Facebook is kind of what we did first for friends of like their kids. And then we also went to, these, what are they called? Like MOPS, or like different groups, to where babysitters, there was like babysitter sites and stuff like that we used, and we found people on that, there's a lot of resources out there. Don't let kids can't be left alone, or you don't trust anybody be an excuse for you to not go on date night. Because there's always a way to figure it out, and there's always a way to find an excuse. The choice is really ours in what we do. And we've had times where we've had, 2 or 3 babysitters lined up, and, they've canceled, and we, figured out a different way to go on a date. But the important thing is that we strategically start planning these out, and we eliminate the excuses of, hey, I don't trust anybody with my kids, or my kids can't be left alone. The other excuse a lot of times is money. So if you think about a babysitter, let's just say 3 hours for a babysitter is anywhere from $45 to $60, depending on where you're from. And then, you know, paying for dinner could be anywhere from $50 to $150, depending on where you live. And then also, so before you even go out to dinner, you're pretty much spending $200. And a lot of times that's a lot of money to certain people. Like, what do you say to people who, you know, they're on a budget, they don't have, you know, $100, $200. Let's say they have $50 or maybe they even have 25. What would you say to that couple?
Well, I think you can create a date at home. I mean, you can have the kids. I mean, you can wait till the kids go to bed and you can have, I mean, you can create a date in your bedroom. I mean, with you guys could play a game, you can light some candles, you can take a bath together. It doesn't have to be going out necessarily. I mean, if you can't find a sitter or you don't have, you know, you don't want to make the investment on, you know, you just can't on the sitter or maybe the dinner, I would definitely, I mean, we've done that before. I mean, you create the date at home, you know. The next thing is maybe you have money for a sitter and that's about it. And I mean, how fun is a picnic? You know, you can get, I mean, if you want a bottle of champagne and then you just take some snacks, or, I mean, maybe you eat at home. And so maybe you make a dessert for your husband or something like that. And you go watch, you know, you go to the park and you just spend time together. Or, you know, another fun thing is there's tons and we could share some in another episode, but there's fun questions you can ask each other, you know, reminiscing even back to when you first started dating or when you first got married, or, I mean, you can pull out old photo albums and have a date on just looking at old pictures together. You know, I think that's super fun. And it's really amazing the feelings and the emotions that come up when you look back, and you remember kind of, oh my gosh, where you started, where you are now, and the love that you have. So I mean, there's tons of ways, I believe.
Yeah. So we have the bedroom. You know, when kids go to bed, we have, you know, you could also make dinner at home and have your kids kind of be the waiters and get them involved if you wanted to. You could also go do a picnic. So you could go to a park, you could go to a beach, like kind of where we live. It doesn't have to be also at night. It could be in the middle of the day. You could also go like park if you live in a colder climate. You know, maybe you go to a coffee shop or you go to, you know, a hill and you're, you know, parked in a car and you're just there having the picnic in the car. Like,
because I don't think it's necessarily about the food you're eating, the restaurant you're at. You know, it's not those things. Yes, the environment, but it's really about being together and connecting. So, I mean, it can be a day date. You can go for a hike, go, you know, I mean, surprise your husband at his office and make lunch and just talk and connect.
right. And I think, you know, a big thing is I think we get kind of small-minded of, well, here's my expectations of a date. It has to be at this restaurant. It has to be, you know, this amount of money. It has to be this. And to me, it kind of reminds me of working out. It's like, well, if I don't have 60 minutes to work out, then why do it? But it's like sometimes just going and doing it are some of the most important times that you'd go. And so date night is no different. Just because, you know, you're not going to go to a fancy restaurant or spend $100 or $200 doesn't mean that you can't be consistently going on date night every week. And I think back to some of the times, some of my favorite date nights were maybe where we went for a walk outside, you know, where it was warm or it was on like a boardwalk and we just kind of talked back and forth and there was, you know, the water and things like that. And so those were some of my favorite date nights. And we didn't even really like do anything other than just talk.
Right. And I mean, totally attest to that. Cause sometimes it's like, yes, it's so fun to get dressed up and it's wine and dining, but sometimes it's fun to just chill together, you know, go sit somewhere, go talk. Like you said, go to the beach, go, you know, I mean, get out in nature really.
Go for a bike ride.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
even working out
I
together.
was just going to say that. Even working out. I mean, stuff, I mean, it's so fun. I mean, if you have I mean, you guys can go together and then you know, do something after. It's just, yeah, there's a lot of, and you're right. We tend to put in a box this idea of dating when there is no right or wrong way to go on a date. You know, it's just going on a date is dating.
Right. And then we get into, you know, date nights to where they don't really have a budget. We have, I think of one of the big things that I keep seeing come up on social media is all these people going to these places where they're throwing axes for dates. I don't know if you've seen that, where they like go to this place and
they
it's
beat
like
cars up.
no,
Oh.
there's like a bullseye or kind of like a target,
Okay.
and they stand 10, 15 feet away and they throw axes and like it
That
sticks
must-
into the wall. It kind of looks like a release,
Right.
Well,
It's but that's like for me, like that's funny. I mean, what comes up on your stuff is clearly like for you, but like I would like even just like I always think about batting cages and like hitting a baseball or something. Something.
yeah. And you have movies. One of our dates, we went skydiving in the middle of a day. And that wasn't our favorite date, but it was kind of like we did something that we normally wouldn't do. And, we also at least I did, I kind of conquered my fear. You weren't really scared to do it, but it was kind of a once in a lifetime experience, doing that. But, you have other things like, going to a nice dinner, getting dressed up, doing a photo shoot. You have, going to the movies.
That was really, I want to touch on that because I keep thinking about those. For the first time, we had never done, we've done a lot of like, for our branding and influencing photo sessions separately or with the kids. But we recently did one together, you and I, and it was so fun. And I keep thinking like couples, I don't know, when you go on vacation and we did one in Cabo once, it is crazy to think how much fun it really is just to get the two of you with a fun photographer taking pictures.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. And we've even done it here. I remember doing it like on a summer night. We did it here and we went to dinner at a restaurant where we actually ended up watching the sunset, but it was pretty cool. But if you're listening to this, you can go on Facebook and find, amateur photographers or Instagram or people in your area that are actually just starting out and they're actually pretty good at it. And so it's not a ton of money and maybe it's, a 30-minute session, but it's kind of cool to just go get your picture taken and be dressed up and do something that's not normally something you would do. I think of, going to concerts. Like we've been to tons of concerts together to where that's what we've done on date night.
We've done, let's see,
Seahawks
massages.
games,
Yeah,
sports games. We've done massages. We've got our
Pedicures.
nails done. We've done a lot of different things, but some do cost money and others, they're on a budget. And the thing is we're finding out different ways to do things. And I actually think that if you do set a budget, it kind of gets you creative on what you can do. Cause it's like, man, what could I fit into, this $25 or, you always think back to Christmas when we did like those white elephant gifts and it's like, hey, what could I spend $10 on? But it was like everybody spent $10 and it was cool to see how creative people got. But, I think date night's kind of the same way. It's like, how creative can you get, at $25, $50, $75, $200, whatever that is. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what money is being spent. It's about being connected. It's about being able to open up and invest in each other. And be consistent with that every single week.
That's the huge thing too, the consistency, because we all know, the weeks that go by, well, we talk about it all the time that maybe we go on a double date or there's something going on and we miss it. And it's like, man, you can just tell. And another thing I was just going to say that's really fun, you can make little jars and on the outside you could say like $50 date. You could be like, one could be 25, one could be a 200. And maybe, you go through picking and together you each put 10 ideas in for $25 and then you grab one out of the jar. And so it doesn't have to be every single time. And I mean, maybe it's a bike ride, honestly, like the sky is really the limit for the date that you can create.
Yeah. And I think also is, we kind of started out where it was like, hey, it's the guy's idea all the time on where to go and setting it up. And then you started to do it because you're like, hey, this is kind of fun. I want to pick it this time. But what was, if you think back to when we've really been dating consistently over the last 5 years or 5+ years, what's been your favorite date?
Well, I'm gonna wait for a second on that, but I can say honestly, the most incredible in what I can remember the first date because let's just be honest, you didn't plan dates prior to when we really consistently were like, this is a weekly thing we are committed to. Like when we really started to, take our marriage to the next level, we just kind of went out like, and I would just be like, oh, you want to go out tonight? I have a sitter, it was just random. And so the best thing for me, I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember where we were. I remember you asking me to take my picture and I thought, what the heck is going on? But it was so important to you that you plan it, and you surprised me. And maybe, that was just something that I did, in the beginning. And that was really, I don't even know if I can, I'll think here for a minute on a favorite date, but I just remember how special it was because you committed to this for a long time of getting the sitter, picking what we were going to do. And it was like, oh my gosh, like I felt so special and you wanted to do that. So I really, honestly, truly, I don't know if there's, men out there listening or women that, maybe it is the woman that's always doing it. And she's like, oh, it feels like, I don't even know if he wants to be there or this is we go and we talk work and whatever. I would for sure challenge you, to ask your husband, it's okay to ask him to plan it, or I want to be surprised, and plan something for me.
Well, and what's crazy is, when you first start dating, the guy's typically the
Yeah.
one who's setting up the dates. He's typically the one kind of figuring everything out. It's like he's
Asking you.
he's pursuing
Right.
you and setting all this stuff up to impress you. But then it's like after you get married, after, so many years, he stops doing that. And so I believe it's really important for the guys to start out doing this, especially in the beginning, because of the things you said. Most of the time, the wife setting up the babysitter. Most of the time, the wife might be setting up reservations and things like that. If they're not, anyways, like start it. If you're the guy, take the lead and start doing this. And you guys eventually get to a place where it's like, hey, let's go on a date this week, but I think I'm going to do it this week. And the wife, kind of challenges herself, and then you start kind of challenging each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're so right, because when you think about dating, like, I'm not going to call you and be like, hey, like, first or second date, you want to go out tonight? Yes, I definitely could, but that's kind of the fun and the excitement in it all, and so, and it's okay to go back and forth, but yeah, it really.
Yeah. Listen, if you have kids and you're married and you've been married for, a certain amount of years, I'm going to say the guy does it because, the mom's tired, she's worn out, she's probably like, hey, when are you gonna like get back to dating me? So I would just say, guys, take the lead on this in the beginning. Doesn't mean you're going to be doing it forever, but I think at the end of the day, it's you have to, pursue your wife even after you've been married a certain amount of years. You got to show up for her, and not only that, it's important that you guys spend time together, and you got to take the lead on this.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
So is there any I think the last question I had was, what was your favorite?
Oh my gosh.
There's been so many. Think about it. 5 years, 52 weeks. That's like 200 and like some dates. I know we didn't do one every week, but I'm guessing we're somewhere around 240, 230, 240 in 5 years.
Let me think, but let me ask you, can you think of one of your favorite ones to plan? Or that stands out to you that you were like excited and like, wow, I get to like.
The one I think about was an overnight date, like just recently. And it was like us going to overnight at a surf and sand hotel. And, getting champagne and kind of just doing that. And it was like, we ended up having a lot of fun, and we didn't really do anything other than just, well, I mean, we did, but we just kind of hung out, and it wasn't like we had to be at dinner. We didn't have to like, sometimes I feel like, when we plan stuff, it's like, we got to hurry up and get here, and we got to hurry up and do this, and we got to hurry up and do that. And it was just kind of nice to just relax. And
well, and I think, I think about vacations too. And when you talk about this hurry up and be somewhere, or the kids or this, and these even these vacations, and I think about, and I used to say, and I still do to women that I'm leading, that it's amazing how you can feel so disconnected, or like things are just, you're going through the motions of the day, and you're connected, you love your husband. I'm not saying there's, anything wrong, but then you either have a hotel for the night, or you're on vacation, and it blows me away the different level of excitement, intimacy,
sex,
freedom, like just like, it's almost, I can literally feel myself kind of sink into this like sexual, sensual, like woman that I know I am, but I tend to at home, where things are going on, it's so different.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it is nice to have, of course, going on a date night and coming back home. Yes, the kids are asleep and you can have your time, but oh my gosh, and I've had, girlfriends say like, there's really nothing like hotel sex or getting away. Or I even think, we would have our plan, when we go on vacation, we lay out in the sun and we have lunch, and then we go take a nap, and then we wake up, it's like, yeah,
sounds like I need to plan a vacation.
Yeah. So I too, I think that is the environment, and I say this is everything. And I really think, having 3 kids and, being in the daily grind of it all, it is nice to be able to, I want to say, strip that all away literally, and just be together, with no agenda.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So you got any final words?
Final words. Just, I know for a fact that, date nights are what I look forward to every single week. I know for a fact that they shifted our connection, our communication, our intimacy in our marriage. And my final words would really be like, get committed to dating your spouse.
Yeah. And you get out of it exactly what you put into it on both sides. So,
right.
Hopefully we gave you guys some ideas on a budget or not on a budget on ways that you can do this. And not only that, the important thing is that you just commit to it every week. I would say for a minimum of 90 days, and just see what happens.
Right. And, if we didn't, or if there's something we didn't cover, like I and Jesse and I want you as a couple winning. Like if you're winning, we're winning. So I'm on Instagram, Katie Ewell. We're all, send me a DM, question us, ask us questions like, well, this is the struggle. What about this? How did you guys overcome this? Like, we're an open book, and we're here because we're sharing our life so that we can, help you move forward in yours and in your marriage. So don't ever hesitate to reach out and ask a question, or if you're stuck, maybe how you can move forward.
Yeah. And I think about, when you say that, I think about, what do you do if you're disconnected as a couple,
mm-hmm.
and, you haven't even brought up date night, let alone, just being together. That's been a problem, just being together. And so what do you do in that situation?
Okay, you're asking me because I was going to ask you. And
I'll answer after.
Okay, so basically you don't even feel like going on a date. So where do you even start?
Yeah, or maybe you're that disconnected in your marriage to where it's like, I don't even want to be around her.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I don't even want to be around him.
Right.
Like, where do you start with that?
Well, and I think for me, and I know this isn't like a place I have never been in, and it's really asking myself and submitting myself to kind of dropping that ego of, I don't want to be around him. Like, ladies, it's your husband. You love him. You're married to him. Okay, they've pissed you off. You're disconnected. But I always ask myself, like, what do I want? And I want to be connected to my husband. And right now I'm not feeling it, but how can I take one step and move forward to being connected to him? And if it's a letter, if it's, we need to sit down and talk, and I need to just talk, and I need you to hear me. And this is what I'm feeling. And maybe not go on all feelings, but facts. Like, this is where we're at. And I don't want to be here. It's getting vulnerable. And it's, I truly believe it's really owning too. And I kind of spoke on this at an event I was at. It's owning my shit. Just because we're disconnected doesn't mean it's my husband's fault. Like, there's parts I'm playing too.
Yeah.
And it's getting open and honest and real with those things and walking through those first, because we can all say we're disconnected, or, okay, sex isn't great, or he's not doing this or whatever, but what's deeper? What's really deeper? And for us, I know we reached out, maybe you can't figure it out as just a couple. Maybe you need another couple. And that's why Jess and I are so passionate about this, to turn to and say, hey, this is what we're walking through, and we'll be the first ones to say if we don't know, or it's like, maybe you should talk to your pastor, maybe you should go seek some, professional counseling. But, maybe it's turning to someone and asking and being okay with not being okay to move forward, because I think that's really the first step.
Right. Yeah. And I think, for me and for us, or even couples we've talked to, that are completely disconnected, it's all about being reconnected. And the only way to really be reconnected or to connect back with each other is to spend time, and invest time with each other. And, I think the biggest thing is, like you said, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want your marriage to continue down the path it's on, or do you want to change that? And the only way to change it is to begin to invest in each other. And if it has to be every single week, perfect. But what I know is this: most couples that are in this situation, they know more of what they don't want, and then they do what they actually do want. And
Yes.
so they end up just getting more of what they don't want. And that really ends up hurting them and hurting their marriage, because it's like, well, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to be left alone. But it's like, well, what do you actually want? And it's like, well, I don't want this. And it's like, no, tell me what you do want, not what you don't want.
Right.
And so if you're in the place of, here's what I don't want, get clear on what it is you do want, because you're going to have to communicate one way or another. So you might as well do it together, by yourselves, out on a date, versus, doing it anywhere else. And,
Right.
and maybe it's just going and parking somewhere and like you said, saying, hey, here's what's going on with me.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't feel like you're attacking the other person. It's like, hey, here's how I'm feeling. And that's one of the biggest things that I think, changes for people is when you talk from there versus, well, you're doing this wrong or you're doing that wrong. Like, nobody really wants to be told that.
No. And, the other thing to just tag on with that is, if I don't know what you want, I'm just going to give you what you don't want. So,
Right.
so there's no real moving forward. And again, anyone listening, if you need tools on this, ideas, if you're like, oh my gosh, wow, like that made a light bulb go on. Can you walk with me through this? Yes, of course we can. We've had couples that are so disconnected. There's this thing we called soul gazing, and we've sat them down just in front of each other, and they're so disconnected, and literally you had them just look into each other's eyes for a good period of time, and the tears just start. There's so much emotion. There's so much I mean, there could be anger, there could be sadness, there could be feelings of being alone. And it kind of has to come down. It needs to be, it's blocking everything else. And this block, it needs to be unblocked. So there's many ways. And again, I mean, if you're that disconnected, you're not alone. So don't think there's something wrong with your marriage or it can't be turned around or whatnot. I mean, we have couples that have no issues, but just want to run. I mean, you know what I mean? So I highly suggest, that was great advice. If you're saying what you don't want, really, really dive deep and think about what it is you do want so that you can tell your spouse that so they can do, their part on giving you exactly what you want.
Yeah, that's a great example of, I think a lot of times in marriage, we expect our spouse to read our mind and to know what we want. And I'll be honest with you, like most of the time, if someone tells you something once, you don't remember it, so you need to be told over and over what it is that your spouse wants so that you can make sure that you deliver on that. Because if you don't do that and you expect them to know, you're just getting yourself into trouble right there. So, if that's any piece of advice we could end the episode on, that would be it, is just getting super clear on what it is that you do want in your marriage. Because if you do know what that is, you got a 50-50 shot at getting it. If you have no idea and you don't share that, you have almost 0% chance at getting it.
Right. And I guess then really quick, if you really don't know what you want in your marriage, I don't believe it's that you don't know. I mean, I think it's going deeper really and asking yourself some questions. So, I mean, there's always a way to figure out what you do want and move forward.
Right. So we want to thank you guys for being here. If you have any questions, comments, you want us to do an episode specifically on something, please reach out to us. Like you said, Katie, you can find Katie on Instagram, Katie M. Ewell. You can also find me on Instagram or Facebook. But if you guys are looking to connect further with a group of like-minded people, join myself and Katie and so many others in the Habit-Based Lifestyle Secrets group on Facebook, where we will be dropping daily habits and helping you live to your full potential. If you want to be one of our next case studies and begin living this habit-based lifestyle or be a part of our Power Couples program, feel free to reach out to us. Jesse at habitbasedlifestyle.com, Katie at habitbasedlifestyle.com. Until next episode, have a great day.